This is Dr. Page, the best guy to see on the worst day of your life. And today I have with me a new friend and a comrade in medicine, Dr. Marc Bruce. Dr. Marc is a new author of a book, Jackie, a Boy and a Dog. And it's an interesting story about his relationship with Jackie Kennedy, of all people. But we're going to talk a little bit about the book today, but I want to go back a little bit and talk a little bit about Bruce. Bruce, how are you today?
I'm doing great.
Man, it's great to see you. So Marc is an ER physician. He's very involved in, politically with emergency room doctors. He's actually works with the country of Belize and with Canada. He's a delegate for the American ER. What do you call that?
I'm an ambassador for the American College of Emergency Physicians, headquartered in your state, headquartered in Dallas.
Wow,
that's awesome.
That's awesome, Big D. So anyway, he's very involved with his ER association, and I think we're going to start out a little bit and talk about some of your stories. I've heard a little bit about your story, and I want you to kind of tell us a little bit about. I know that you had a dog when you were a kid. Let's start there. I mean, I know that your dog had an interesting accident when you were playing baseball, and through this you kind of got a dog from Jackie Kennedy. Just tell us the story. This is a great story.
Yeah, and this dog that I got, my dog's grandmother was the first dog that the Russians sent up in a Sputnik to come back alive.
Wow.
That was Strelka back in late 50s, the early part of the space race. And the Soviets were pretty far ahead of the United States at that time. And Strelka comes back. She has a litter of pups. One of those pups is Pushinka. Pushinka becomes a gift of state from Premier Khrushchev to the Kennedy family at the 1951 Vienna Summit Conference.
Back in the day.
Yeah. And then the Kennedys entered the White House with just one dog. That was Charlie, the Welsh Terrier. And Charlie was Jack's favorite. He was Jack's swimming companion. And he really was he was kind of the alpha dog of the kennels. And he brought great solace to the president during some of the dark days of that administration. But Charlie falls in love with Pushinka in the spring of 1963, and Pushinka has a litter of pups early summer.
Wow. That
litter of pups was born about a week after my tragic accident that I had. I had two great loves in life. And number one was dogs. And the first words out of my mouth, I think, were, "Can I have a dog?" And my second great love was baseball. And I loved baseball. St. Louis Cardinals were my team.
Just an all-American boy, yeah.
Yeah, and, we were growing up in central Missouri at the time. Stan Musial was playing his last season.
Wow.
And we had a big backyard, so we always had the games in the neighborhood in our yard. And so this one afternoon, early summer, I didn't know that my dog, Midget, was out, and she was just a little loyal companion. She loved to play catch, and so I was at bat. It was the perfect pitch. I was going to hit it over the fence. She sees the ball. She comes running up to the plate to get the ball. She's behind me because she thinks the ball's for her. And so as I'm swinging, she's jumping up to get the ball, and I hit her in the head and kill her.
Wow. Devastating.
Absolutely devastated. I cried for a week. And after a week, listening to Paul Harvey, he's announcing they just had a litter of pups at the White House. What are they going to do with all those dogs?
You had an idea.
And so I'm going, man, I need a dog. Nobody needs a dog more than I need a dog. And so I sat down and wrote a letter to the Kennedys. And I said, "Hey, I killed my dog. Can I have one of yours?" It was a little bit more than that, but that was pretty much the gist of what I wrote.
And so what happened?
A week later, I get a letter back from the White House from one of Jackie's social secretaries, Nancy Tuckerman. And she says, "Well, we're really sorry to hear your sad story, but we're not going to give any of the dogs away." Well, I thought that was the end of it. Little did I know that for the next 2 months, the FBI's coming out to our neighborhood, interviewing our neighbors, swearing them to secrecy, asking them, gee, has this kid killed anything else? What's the family really like? We find this out about 2 years later, but August 18th of 1963, Sunday morning, we get a call, and it's the White House on the phone. I answered the phone. My dad was a minister, so he was already at church. And this person on the phone says, is Master Bruce there?
Master Bruce.
Master Bruce. You know, and I wasn't used to being called Master around the house, so I thought she meant Mr., but couldn't figure out why she didn't call him Reverend Bruce like everybody else did. Now I said, no, he's not here. He's already at church, but would you like to speak to my mom? And she says, yes, that'd be fine. And she identified herself as Evelyn Lincoln, the president's personal secretary, and told my mom if Marc still wants a dog, the Kennedys have decided to give Marc a dog.
Wow.
Well, you know, whenever the president calls, you don't say no. And especially if they want to give you something.
Absolutely.
So I got this dog. They flew it out to me a couple of days later. And I wrote a thank you letter to the Kennedy family, primarily to Jackie. And, you know, I had good manners. Somebody does something nice, you say thank you. And so Jackie writes me back in September of 1963, early September. And it's a very personal, handwritten letter, about 3 pages long. Tells me a lot about kind of what it's like to be at the White House and some of the behind-the-scenes things with the dogs. And ends the letter saying, please stay in touch because we'll be interested in how everything turns out. So we had actually planned a photo op in January of 64 because they were stopping.
Wow.
John and Jackie were stopping on a campaign trip in Colombia, but Jack was killed 2 months before that, so that never happened. But every year or two, I'd write Jackie a letter, and I'd send her a picture, and she would always write me back. And she was, it was always just a very encouraging letter that she had for me, and just she was a tremendous encouragement in terms of my studies and my choice of profession, and just was used as an instrument of God's grace in my life.
Wow. And
really equipped me to be the same thing for so many people that I've touched around the world with my medical work.
It's amazing the impact that such a small thing. I mean, from Jackie Kennedy's standpoint, it wasn't really a big deal to write you a letter, or maybe it was because of their busy schedule, but still what an impact just that small thing had in your life.
Absolutely. You know, and here's the most iconic woman of the 20th century.
Yeah.
That took time to pay attention to me, and not just pay attention, but write a letter. And, you know, you grow up with something, it kind of seems fairly normal. I didn't think it was really too much out of the ordinary until I think it was probably when I was in college. It started to really dawn on me that, you know, this is really a very special relationship. And, you know, none of my buddies in college were getting letters from Jack.
That's funny. It was just kind of normal to you from your perspective.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That letter she wrote me in, I think it was in 1972. It was probably one of the most special letters that she sent me. I probably have about a dozen letters.
What did it say?
Over the 60s, 70s, and 80s. She said, and I don't know what I said in this letter. I wish I had that letter. But she said, thank you so much for writing me. She says, it was such a beautiful letter. I will keep it always. Wow. You brought back memories of such happy times. And so, you know, at that point, it was like, oh, my goodness. You know, it was, and again, I've written the Kennedy family, and I've asked them if they archived any of her correspondence, but I've never gotten a response back from them. So,
what's interesting, too, now I've got several names for you. I've got Pups. I've got Master. I got Dr. Bruce. I got Master Marc. But it's interesting, you know, maybe you were an encouragement to her at a very dark time in her life, bringing back some good memories.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know, Chuck, you know, and so, you know, it was, I found out, you know, she died in 1994, and, you know, it was one of those situations where last few years that, she was alive, my life just got incredibly busy. And our correspondence started tailing off kind of really in the mid 80s, after I kind of got out of the Navy and started civilian practice and, having 5 kids. But even up until some of the kids were born, we would send them birth announcements and she would always write back. And, it was just always, like I say, I had Streaker. That was the name of the dog she gave me. I had Streaker for over 17 years. And, he was just a great, great pet. It was love at first sight matter of fact, the picture on the cover of my book is a picture of me taking him out of his shipping crate. And it was just, he loved me and I loved him, and it was just, he was my best pal for 17 years.
So did Streaker have any pups? Yeah,
we did mate him. And, matter of fact, it was I think in 73, he sired a litter of 3 pups. And, matter of fact, I offered one of those pups back to Jackie. And she just very graciously declined, saying something to the effect that, John would like to make every stray dog and cat in New York his own, but we've reached our limit with 3. And, so I was at Baylor at the time and I was a chemistry major and I was taking a physics course, and my physics professor was, Merle Alexander, and Dr. Alexander was part of the NASA program and had done a lot of work, and he knew all about the Soviet space program and about the space dogs, and he didn't know about my connection with them until after class one day, after Jackie turned me down to have her get one of the pups. I went up to him after class and I said, Dr. Alexander, kind of told him my story, and I says, Streaker just had a litter of pups. Would you like to have one of these pups? And oh my gosh, you would have. He was like he just won the lottery.
Hey, did that up your grade in that class?
Well, I didn't in class.
Oh, that's funny, man. That's a great story, and it's some great life lessons that you've learned through that, Mark. And thanks for sharing that. These are really 3 great stories, man, with things that we can learn. Isn't that funny how often, our life, I believe our life is a story that God creates. It talks about in Ephesians 2:10, it talks about how we are his workmanship, and that word is poema. It's like we're his story, how God is writing out a story with our lives. And sometimes there's things that are fun to write about or have written about our lives. There's other things about our story that we wouldn't really want we really don't want to be written, but yet God is doing all those things and weaving all those things in for a purpose. Man, thanks for sharing your stories.
Yeah, I always sign my book when people ask me to sign the book with 1 Peter 4:10.
What does that say?
That is basically, each of you should use the gifts you have been given to serve others, faithfully administering God's grace.
Wow.
We've all been gifted.
And
it's a matter of us just putting our giftedness, again, at God's disposal and letting him use us as he sees fit. And when you do that, It's just amazing what happens.
Wow. Well, man, I appreciate you sharing not only your stories, but your giftedness in this area, even going overseas and sharing your expertise and being put in situations that are kind of beyond your scope and your level of comfort. I think that's one of the things that's so neat, is to be stretched in that way. And then just sharing your story about Jackie. Tell us, where can readers get your book, and how can people, connect with you?
Thank you. Well, first of all, the book is available at any bookstore. Barnes & Noble, you can order it from them. You can order it from Amazon. We have a book website that really it's got a chapter in the book, so you can kind of explore the book a little bit.
Good.
But the book website is JackieBoyDog.com.
There you go.
That's easy. Yeah, it's got some media on it. Audi Automobiles did a documentary on this story about a couple of years ago, and that little 9-minute clip is linked up there. And some of my other there's some other media that's linked up there. But there's a bookstore
right
in the website, so that
Good.
If you wanted to order it from the website, there's a way for me to actually personalize it. There's a box there that you can ask me how you would want me to sign it. And so it's available, and there's a credit card availability on the website, and obviously there's actually links to Amazon and to Barnes & Noble on the website too. So
That's awesome.
JackieBoydDog.com.
So, Dr. Marc Bruce, thanks for sharing that. Tell us, kind of in this discussion, what's next for you?
Well, I'm still working.
Still paying the bills.
Well, I still enjoy what I do, and I think I do a decent job at it. And but I also realize that I am a grandfather now, and getting pulled in other directions, and trying to be a better husband than what I've been during my career. My wife has tolerated my being away for so much, and then
you're riding on top of being an emergency room physician.
Yeah. So trying to be a good husband, trying to be a good grandfather, and still parenting my 5 children. You never quit being a parent.
Yes, I've realized that.
We are still involved with a lot of international work. As you mentioned at the beginning, I'm the American College of Emergency Physicians ambassador to Belize and also to Canada. And so we've, matter of fact, just about 2 months ago, we certified 8 of our core group doctors in emergency medicine that we've been training for 10 years down there.
Wow.
So, we've they're almost like family to us now. So,
yeah, it's pretty gratifying, isn't it?
Yeah, it's great.
That's great. Well, listen, this is Dr. Marc Bruce. He is the author of Jackie, a Boy and a Dog, and we'll have the link to his website below where you can click and get a signed autographed copy. Just remember, I'm Dr. Page, the best guy to see on the worst day of your life, and just remember to stay focused.